Well, I hope everyone is doing good today. So today I'm talking about rethinking education through disruptive technologies. How did I get here, and what exactly does this mean? Well, a couple years ago I was in one of my university courses. It was about 3 hours long and it ended at 9 o'clock at night. So as many of you guys could probably guess, I was half asleep, not really paying attention, and barely able to retain anything that the teacher was saying. After this class, I was talking with one of my friends, and I remember our conversation. I told him there was no way that that could have been the best way for us to have learned that material. He agreed, and I remember us talking about, well then, what would be a better way? What does the future of education look like? Because we're talking about the future, of course we bring up technology. We say that maybe there's some sort of technology that'll come along and make make education better in any sort of way. Because in the past, we've seen this exact same thing happen before, many, many times. If you think about a calculator or the computer or the internet, each one of these technologies have come into education and has benefited it and provided value. Whether this be through helping the students engage or helping them better understand the material, or even just giving them an extra tool to solve more complex problems. Of course, we can't rely on technology. We don't want students to not have the critical thinking skills or the creative problem solving skills that they not only need in education, but that they desperately need in life. So it's pretty generally agreed upon that we don't need to introduce technology at a very early stage in education. And that's why today when I talk about education, I'm mainly talking about higher education. So universities, colleges, that step of education right before a student goes on to get their first job. So then what is this technology that we're talking about today? Well, for the past decade, we've heard a lot about artificial intelligence, but as I'm sure many of you are aware, the past couple of months, we've all heard and probably have tried ChatGPT. Because this technology has become so popular in the past few months, we've seen the same old questions be brought back up. What should we be doing in education? Should students be allowed to use this technology, or should we be banning it? Well, to me, these are not the questions we should be asking at all. And it's because these companies that students will go on to work for, they don't sit around and ask these questions. They need to be quick and able to adapt to technology as it progresses. And so does the education sector. However, we start to see that the education sector is slow. They sit around and we really try to figure out if it's in the best interest of our students to use it. And this is why that when it comes to technology and education, we need to be sure. We need to know what we're doing and just how and when we're going to integrate it. And this plays into a gap between education and the industry. It's not the only reason. Educators or experts have been telling us about this gap for a long time. They've been saying that we need to get away from the traditional methods of learning, which primarily is the lecture-based approach or testing based on memory, like I saw in my class just a few years ago. And we need to change this and get into an approach that helps students better understand the material. Because it's not that students aren't spending enough time in school. 4 years or 4+ years is more than enough time. It's just that we're not fully getting what the teachers are telling us. And for this reason, we're becoming unprepared and we're not ready for our first jobs. Well, what experts suggest is that we should rely on what works. We should focus on what's been working in education and double down. And what this is an experience-based approach. It's when we're able to personalize curriculums, projects, or assignments to each and every student, or when we focus on relationship building, and specifically mentor and mentee relationships. With these methods, we're able to help the student better understand, be better prepared, and get ready for their first job. And so this is where I think artificial intelligence plays a role. I think that as we've seen artificial intelligence, but ChatGPT in specific, become so popular over the years, or over the past few months, that right now is really the time where we can see a shift in education. We're already seeing just the benefits, how the benefits outweigh the drawbacks, and just how well this is working in education so far. A study completed just last month in March showed us that 63% of students and 72% of teachers agreed that ChatGPT is just another reason why we can't keep doing things the old way in a modern world. And again, it's because of the benefits. Right now with students, what we get to see is the overall product of what they're handing in, whether it be a project or an assignment, is just straight up better. Because they have better research and writing capabilities, and they get to spend less time on this part of the assignment, and they spend more time on maybe the idea generation, or figuring out just how they want to communicate their ideas, or actually being able to practice that communication. For teachers, what we see is they get to save time on meticulous tasks like grading, but they also get to personalize assignments and personalized projects to each and every student. And of course, these are all great benefits, but what's not so obvious is that when a student is able to use artificial intelligence, we can't keep asking them to do the same assignments. We can't test them in the same way. What we're seeing is, let's take an example of the essay, a traditional assignment. Well, if we ask a student to complete an essay and just hand it in, well, we're in the situation of what we're seeing right now, where students are relying just a little too much on artificial intelligence, and to be honest, they're cheating, and they're handing in something that they don't fully understand. So to fix this, what we need to do is make a little tweak to our assignment. For using the example of the essay, we can allow students to instead present their findings, answer follow-up questions so that we know that they understand the material. However, once again, this is a traditional method of learning, a traditional assignment. If instead we make the shift to the modern approach for what experts have been calling for honestly the past decade, we can start to see how these questions go away and how this doesn't matter as much. For example, if we base our education and experience and make things situational based, well, immediately we don't have to ask the question of whether or not it's cheating for a student to use ChatGPT or any other sort of artificial intelligence. Because in the real world, when a situation arises, you think for yourself. You critically think about when and how you're going to use the tool, or if you even need to use the tool at all. And to me, this is the whole point of education, specifically at this part where students are right about to go into their first job. We need to mimic that real world, mimic what they're going to experience as much as possible. And this whole idea that experience-based learning helps students better understand, this isn't new. This is something that has been talked about not only for the past decade, not only for the past century, but for thousands of years. Seriously, since the start of civilization, we've known that humans learn best through doing. They learn best through experience. And there's a great quote that sums this up. A philosopher a couple thousand years ago said, "What I hear I forget, what I see I remember, but what I do I understand." And it's based off this quote. Off this quote is how I made this entire presentation, because I didn't want to just come up here and show you or tell you exactly how artificial intelligence could be beneficial or how it might disrupt education. I wanted to experience it myself, and I wanted to share this experience with all of you. So that's why, from the research to the writing, to the images you saw on the slides, to the title of my presentation, absolutely every part of this presentation, other than me being up here on stage right now, was done using the help of artificial intelligence. And I think this is just a great example of what can happen in education and where we can go. Because this gave me more time to understand the topic further, and it gave me less time on actually the research and writing, but more time on being able to think about how I wanted to communicate this idea and then actually be able to practice it. And that's why I believe that artificial intelligence is the catalyst for this new modern form of education. Thank you.